Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to IWA Warroom, Episode 59. I am your host, Larry, and we got a few shows to go for IWA. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 shows to go over IWA to keep you guys updated with what's been going on. So we're going to go over the IWA showcase that happened first, of the IWA Rising Talent Championship in an elimination chamber. Hold on. All right, so this elimination chamber had Pegasus, Severus Crowley, Frank Ortiz, Mr. Murder, Machete, and Tony Rose. In the end, it was Mr. Murder walking away with the Rising Talent Championship. I Quit match between Frank Ortiz and Severus Crowley, with Frank Ortiz walking away victorious. Extreme Rules Chambers versus Flash, with Chambers walking away victorious. IWA US Championship Fatal 4-Way Jen versus Britt Graves versus War Maiden versus Riley the Ripper, with Britt Graves walking away victorious. 8-man tag, SSR Sir Scott Ryan, Zach Stacks, JCJ and the Big Bad Baby Daddy, Team Hustle and Money versus Amen, Rusty Steele, Dino, and the deranged, unstable clown Saturn, with Team Amen walking away victorious. Fatal 4-Way, Lewis West versus Sinister versus Joker versus Carino, with Lewis West walking away victorious. Dumpster match main event between MG and KD, with KD walking out victorious. The next IWA showcase, 6-man gauntlet eliminator. VJ versus Zilla Fatu versus Dimebag Dan versus the Savage John Robb versus Shaquille versus the Monarch Calypso, with Dimebag Dan walking away victorious. Primetime JoJo versus Harnage Grimm, with Harnage Grimm walking away victorious. Klaus Kruger versus the Reaper, with the Reaper walking away victorious. Chambers versus the Savage John Robb, with John Robb walking away victorious. Frank Ortiz versus Ivy Lowe, with Ivy Lowe walking away victorious. Isaiah Ortiz versus Lewis West, with Isaiah Ortiz walking away victorious. Fuck Norris versus MG, with MG walking out victorious. The Savage John Robb versus Ivy Lowe, with Ivy Lowe walking away victorious. Isaiah Ortiz versus MG, with MG walking away victorious. And in the main event, Ivy Lowe versus MG, with MG walking away victorious. Now, IWA, Calm Before the Storm 1. The King of EFED's Championship, VJ versus MG versus Chambers, with MG walking out the champion. 6-man tag, Hustle and Money, CB, JCJ and Zach Stacks versus the Shaolin Warriors, Mighty and Shaolin King, and Logan Slater, with Shaolin Warriors and Logan Slater walking away victorious. Fatal 5-Way X Division Championship, the Carolina Cracker, the Tattooed Wrestler, the Deathmatch Juggalo, Brian White versus Scott Stevenson versus Big Motherfucking Lou versus the Champion Saturn versus the Hardcore Deathmatch Hippie Nomad, with Big Lou walking out the new champion. Triple Threat Raven Grimm versus Mona C versus Dragon for the IWA United States Championship, with Mona C walking out the new champion. 8-man match, B More versus Carino versus Ricky Souza versus Deuce Sparks versus DMP versus Harnage Grimm versus JoJo versus Flash, with B More walking away victorious. Champion of Champions Fatal 5-Way, Bloodstone versus Jack Graves versus Leo Blade versus the Fire King, the Golden Standard KD versus the Phantom Eddie Walker, with the Phantom Eddie Walker walking out in the main event. IWA Testing Headset, Logan Slater versus JCJ, Logan Slater walking away victorious. I Quit Joker versus Mr. Murder, with Joker walking away victorious. Elimination Chamber, Sinister versus Ember Kine versus Zach Stacks versus Leon Platinum versus the Reaper versus Klaus Kruger, with Ember Kine walking away victorious. The next IWA Showcase, 8-man, actually 8 ladies, for the Rising Talent Championship. AJ versus Ayla versus Chanel Baltimore versus Marie Megan versus Heidi Kruger versus Vera Little Russia versus Sonia Ortiz versus Sonia, with Ayla walking out the new champion. I Quit CB Money versus MG, with MG walking away victorious. Big Bad Baby Daddy and Sir Scott Ryan of Hustle and Money versus Jack Cage and Warhawk, with Hustle and Money walking away victorious. Triple threat for the IWA Northern Continental Championship, Tony Rose versus Frank Ortiz versus Lewis West, with Tony Rose walking away victorious. War Maiden versus Jackie Tyson versus Tiffany Nevins, with Tiffany Nevins walking away victorious. Inferno Logan Slater versus Saturn, with Logan Slater walking away victorious. Parking Lot Brawl Chambers versus Nomad, with Chambers walking away victorious. U.S. Championship Jen versus the champion Mona C, with Jen walking out the new champion. IWA Showcase, the next show. Fatal 4-Way Tornado Tag for the IWA Women's Tag Team Championships, Kendra Grimm and Violet Grimm versus Chanel Baltimore and Jackie Tyson versus Kylie Alexa Page and Kinsey Page versus Ladies Liberty's Demise, Riley the Ripper and Lonely Lisa. I Quit match for the Northern Continental Championship, Wes Grimm versus the champion Tony Rose, with Tony Rose retaining the gold. Extreme Rules Frank Ortiz versus Ember Kine, with Frank Ortiz walking away victorious. Last Man Standing Mr. Patterson versus George Stubbs, with George Stubbs walking away victorious. IWA Rising Talent Championship, Raven Grimm versus the champion Ayla, with Raven Grimm walking out the new champion. IWA Showcase Gauntlet Eliminator IWA Rising Talent Championship, 6-man, Severus Crowley versus Wes Grimm versus Mr. Murder versus Lewis West versus VJ versus Joker, with Mr. Murder walking out the champion. And in the main event, Ambulance Mr. Patterson versus Carino, with Mr. Patterson walking out victorious. And the show that went down today, IWA Dogfight. Extreme Rules Sonia Ortiz versus Mona C versus War Maiden, with Mona C walking out victorious. Logan Slater versus Mr. Murder, with Mr. Murder walking away victorious. King Khan versus The Reaper, with King Khan walking out victorious. Extreme Rules Britt Monet versus Angelina West versus Sonia, with Britt Monet walking out victorious. I Quit IWA Northern Continental Championship, Tony Rose versus champion Bloodstone, with Tony Rose walking out the champion. Raven Grimm versus Jackie Tyson, with Chanel Baltimore, with Jackie Tyson walking out victorious. VJ versus Leo Blade, with VJ walking out victorious. Carino versus the King of Chaos, Wes Grimm, with Wes Grimm walking out victorious. And then the main event was IWA Prestigious World Championship, Last Women Standing, Mona C versus Mother Russia, who was the champion, which ended in a draw because the game updated. So hopefully we see a rematch of that in the future. That was War Room, episode 59, ladies and gentlemen. Hope y'all have a great day, good night, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever y'all may be. Peace out.